Fáilte go Cruinniú. You're welcome to Cruinniú. I hope you're really enjoying this festival. It's great that we can still run the festival and meet you even though we can't meet in person. So we can do it like this over the internet. So my name is Owen Gill and I'm from Waterford Institute of Technology. So maybe you may have met me before if you did the engineering challenge, or you might have met some of my friends Sheila and Cordula if you did the drastic plastics or the kitchen chemistry or the slime workshop. So we're from a centre in Waterford Institute of Technology called Calmast, and we like to tell people about science, engineering, technology and maths because it's really important in our lives and it helps us understand the world we live in. And that can be seen probably from in today's world with this pandemic and all the restrictions, how important science is and how important maths is to tell us what's going on and what's the best thing to do. So today we're going to look at static electricity. Now, I don't know if anyone has seen static electricity. I don't think so, but you will have seen the effects of static electricity, and that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at some of the different effects that static electricity can have, and it can be pretty hair-raising. For instance, my hair is standing up a little bit, but if I rub this balloon in it, look at that. Okay, that's static electricity. And when I move away the balloon, my hair will eventually go back to normal. Now, of course, my hair is quite long because I haven't been able to get out to the barber. So, that's one little demonstration with static electricity, and over the next half hour we're going to look at lots and lots more. We're going to do different experiments and different demonstrations. Now, some of them you'll be able to do because maybe you have a balloon with you, or a pen, or maybe a ruler, or some of the other pieces that I'll be using. Now, if this was normal times, I could bring you into Waterford Institute of Technology where we've all sorts of wonderful things to show you, like the Van de Graaff generator. But now we have to just do things that I can find in my house, and they're also things that you can find in your house. So it actually works out very well because these are things you should be able to find and be able to do. Now, you mightn't have all the materials today, and you mightn't be able to do them all now, but you'll be able to get them over in the near future and do some of these experiments yourself. So the first one we looked at was this one, was just that. Rubbing a balloon in your hair and your hair stands up. Now, that of course depends. My hair is fine, and I've just washed it and to make sure it was clean for this. And but if you have any sprays or gels or that, it's not going to work. Probably it might work a bit, but not. It won't work that well. So I'll put the balloon aside, and then we look at some of the other fun things we can do with static electricity. But first, I suppose we need to try and ask ourselves, what is static electricity? So let's ask ourselves, what is static electricity? Well, firstly, of course, electricity, we're all very familiar with it, and we use electricity in various forms every day. In fact, our modern world wouldn't be possible without electricity. So this is one of your sources of electricity, a battery. There's lots of different types of batteries, different sizes and powers, and batteries generally are reasonably low power, so they're not going to be dangerous. You're not going to get an electric shock from a battery generally, okay, unless it's a bigger battery. So you also might have, you also would be using this as well. So this is mains electricity. So this is electricity that comes out of the wall. You plug things in, and that powers most of our appliances in the house. So such as your cooker, your fridge, your microwave, your washing machine. Also, of course, your television and your PlayStation and Xbox and your laptop maybe, and of course you'd use it to recharge your phone and other mobile devices. So that sort of electricity is very dangerous though, so you never do any experiments with that, and we're today going to just look at static electricity, which is safe for us to do. Now that's not to say there isn't danger with static electricity. There is one thing in particular with static electricity that's very dangerous, and I'll let you try and think about it, see can you think what that might be. So let us think firstly about electricity itself and what it is. Well, let me change over here and we'll have so if we look at our page here, we should be able to find out a little bit more about electricity. Electricity is all about charge. So everything is made up of atoms, whether it be a liquid or a solid or a gas. The air around us is made up of atoms, and atoms are so small you can't see them, but we know they're there because of the effects of them. Now, atoms themselves, even though they're tiny, they're made up of even smaller particles, and two particles in particular that we're interested in: the electron and the proton. Now, in an atom, we have the protons are in the middle. And the proton, we're going to say, has a positive charge. And around this, the center of the atom is whizzing around in space are the electrons. And the electrons could be anywhere outside the atom, whizzing around, and they've got negative charges. So if the number of electrons and protons is the same as it is for atoms most of the time, then there will be no overall charge. But these things here, the electrons, we can get them to move. They can move about, so they could be pulled from one atom onto another. And this is the basis of most of our chemistry, is looking at that. Now in static electricity, if we manage to get pull these electrons off one material and onto another, we can have one will become, so this one, let's see, we should start them being balanced. So we have 4 protons and 4 electrons, and then if we take electrons away, well then this has overall a positive charge. Now, that's all we need to know about our atoms. Now, so in the balloon, that's our balloon. So when I rub the balloon on my hair, the rubber in the balloon snatches electrons. It has a stronger desire or attraction for those electrons, and it can take those electrons away. So it takes up electrons from my hair, and then my hair has lost electrons, so it is more positive than it was. And we know as well that positive will push away from other positives, and negatives will push away from other negatives. So like charges don't like each other. They push away from each other, and unlike charges will attract. So here's unlike charges. We've positive charge on my hair, a negative charge on my balloon, and the balloon and my hair are attracted to each other, and the force pulls my hair up towards the balloon. So that's in a nutshell what electricity is. So static electricity, this is static electricity, where in something like a balloon, the electrons aren't free to move about very much. So the charge, when it's formed, kind of is stuck there. Now eventually it leaks away, because it can leak away. Those electrons will leak away into the air or to other things that it touches. So eventually will leak away. But it doesn't move too much, so it's called static electricity. The other electricity, like in our mains and in our battery, the battery is like a little pump for the electrons. So it pumps the electrons out, and we get it to pump through a wire, and we could have something like a light bulb on it. And this is our little light bulb. And the electrons will run around this wire through the light bulb, and as they go through the light bulb, they'll give some of their energy, and that will make light. So in things like the things that we use, it's called current electricity, because the electricity flows. What we're looking at today is static electricity, which is really interesting. And it was the only sort of electricity that people knew for thousands of years. So this battery is only about 220 years old since we discovered the battery, but static electricity has been around forever. So we said if charges are the same, they push away from each other. If they're different, they'll attract each other. So if I take the balloon again and I charge it up, and then I have this other balloon, and we'll see what happens when we bring one balloon towards the other. Look at that. It's pushing it away. They're pushing away from each other. Okay, so if they're the same charge, these are both lots of negative charges on them, low extra electrons, and they're pushing, look, they push away from each other. But what about something that has a different sort of charge? There you are already. I have a positive charge because all those electrons have been taken from me. So I have a positive charge, and this is attracted to me, and certainly attracted to my hair. Okay, now also if maybe I put a bit more charge on it to show you this. There you are. It sticks to the wall because of the static electricity. Isn't that interesting? You can amaze your friends with that one. It's magic. No, it's not. It's science. So now we've seen that a balloon is very good at taking a static charge. Well, what else could we use to do that? What about a pen? Okay, we could see a pen, and I'll just get my blanket here, and so rubbing it in the wool, and we'll see, does this give us a charge? Okay, I can see something there. So maybe you can't see it so well, so let me just see, can I get a close-up of that? Okay, we can, so let's look at that. Okay, now maybe I can get a better charge by rubbing it in my hair. Let's see how this goes. Oh, there seems to be more action there, doesn't there? And it's picking up. Now I use tissue paper. The lighter paper will be picked up easier, but any sort of paper, if you cut it up small, should work. So a pen will work, a plastic pen. And then what about a plastic ruler? Well, let's try this again. We'll do the wool first. And again, the ruler, the greedy plastic, is taking electrons from the wool. And let's see the effect here. Oh yeah. Everything is being picked up there. Now I might just try it in my hair and see, is that better or worse? Oh, seems to be a good bit better in the hair and the ruler as well. Okay, now what about maybe in my cotton t-shirt? Okay, very little there, not much activity there at all. Okay, so that's the plastic ruler and the plastic pen. What about metal? Okay, so here I have a knife. Maybe that will work as well. And knives, metal is very good conductors of electricity, so the electrons can race through these super fast. Now let's see how this will work. I'm not that keen on rubbing the knife in my hair, just in case we have an accident. And you don't need to do this yourself because I'm doing it. And we show there, no, nothing. So conductors aren't very good at creating static charge, because if a charge is created in a conductor, it just runs around and matches up. So if we have excess electrons, they'll just match up with protons where they're needed. So the positive and negative charges will balance much easier. In the plastics, the electrons can't move around so much, so they're kind of stuck in place, and they give that area with a charge, and that gives us a good force there. Okay, so what's the next thing we're going to look at? Okay, we're going to look at some other things that can give us a charge. Here's one here actually that you might be familiar with. It's not something I'd recommend you actually using. This is polystyrene or foam. It's kind of used in insulation, and it's very commonly used for packaging. And most people think it's a terrible nuisance because you have to get rid of it. There's a lot of it comes, but it's very good for keeping things safe. If something like some electronic goods packaged in these, and if the box falls or that, it should cushion it. Now these really do like to become statically charged. Now let me just look at what we can do here. And it just sticks to the wall there. Okay, and that strong static charge, and anyone who has used them, who have tried to break them up, will find that the bits and pieces can go and they stick to everything because they take on a static charge, and they're so light, so they can be carried by that static charge. Now we're going to look at the effects then on some insulators and conductors when we bring static electricity near them. Okay, so let's have a look at these. These are little aluminium, well, they're not aluminium, they're little polystyrene balls that I've just pulled away some of the little clumps of polystyrene and cover them with a little bit of aluminium or baking foil. So it means that they're light. Now, if I take my balloon and charge it and see if we make anything interesting happen with these. They're moving a bit, but that's there. Look at that. Levitating. Okay, it's moved up. There it is there. And there it falls back down. So now we have these aluminium foil covered polystyrene balls. I have them underneath this cover, so to try and contain them. Now I'm going to take the balloon and charge the balloon, and we'll see what happens when we pass charge over. So it attracts the aluminium balls, and look at that, even after we've taken it away, they're still moving about. There's still activity going on. A little bit of charge. And again, we still have some activity afterwards. Okay, so that's really interesting. You could have a lot of fun with that, and you could have a lot of fun showing your friends or family. It's a really simple little experiment. So this next demonstration is a really nice one. You can easily do this yourself, and all you need is an empty drinks can and whatever you're using. I'm using the ruler this time. Charge up the ruler, put the can down on the table, make sure it's not going to roll away on its own, and then let's see what happens when we bring the ruler towards the can. Look at that. And now somebody might say, well, maybe the table is sloping away and that's the can is just rolling. Well, let's see. If that was the case, we wouldn't be able to do this and bring it back the other way, would we? So that's an easy one to do. And really what's happening is there's no charge on the can, but what's happening is the electrons in the can, there's an excess of electrons on our ruler, and when we bring this up close, it's pushing on the electrons in the can. Remember we said that like charges don't like each other? They want to push away from each other, and unlike charges are attracted and want to pull together. So when we bring the ruler with all the electrons up close, the electrons in the can, they're free to move in metals, and so they run over to the far side of the can. So therefore this part of the can has a positive charge then, and positive charges are attracted to negative charges. So it's attracted, and as it rolls, the electrons are pushed away and the positive charge is attracted. So don't worry too much about these explanations if you don't follow them. You don't need to understand everything to be able to go and experiment yourself and do these activities. And I can guarantee you, you've learned an awful lot about static electricity now. Now we're going to look at the effect of static charge on water. And I'm just going to turn on, we want a very thin stream of water like this, and we're going to charge the ruler, and we're going to see when pieces of paper move with static electricity, what's the effect on water. Look at this, isn't this amazing? it bends the jet of water. So the water is bending over attracted We're now going to look at what we've learned so far, and we're going to use a little device I've made here. We might just take a closer look at it. And this is just a jar, and I've hung a piece of wire through it, and at the end of the wire I have two pieces of aluminium foil, tin foil, but it's really aluminium. So put those in the jar, and this will help us detect if there is a charge. Now, I might look at, this is a PVC pipe, very good at taking up charges, and I'm just going to rub it on the wool here, and let's see, can you see the leaves pushing apart? And I'm not even touching it, so the electrons here are exerting a force at a distance, and it's the electrons in the wire are feeling that force. And in metals, in conductors, they're free to move. So they run down the end of the wire and into the aluminium, and then they want to get apart, so they push each other apart. So the charge is lasting a good bit there. Now we might just take a close up of it, and then we look at using some other materials. Well, what about our trusty ruler? And we'll rub it on paper and see, does paper give it a charge? Yes, it does. So this has got a negative charge from the paper, so that means the paper must have got a positive charge from it. So let's see if we can detect the positive charge. Look at that, we can see it quite strong. Now that's good because the charge leaks away quite quickly. Particularly today, the air is a bit damp, so electrons from the air are going into the paper to fill those gaps. So what else can we look at? This is a piece of amber, lovely stone. Well, it's not really a stone, but it's used in jewellery. And this is something that the Greeks knew about. And the Greeks knew that amber could take a static charge. And let's see, can we detect it? Not very well. And let me just try my hair, get a better charge maybe in my hair. I'll get a very slight, I don't know even if you can see that, a very slight movement on it. But the Greeks called amber electra, and that's where we get our word electricity from, and our electrons. Now there's some other things in the house that you might be surprised about. Here is cling film, and let's open up the cling film and bring it down, and you can see that there is a charge. Let me just do a fresh piece. Look at that, it's moving apart because the cling film, as we pull it apart from the roll, it takes on a charge, and that's why it kind of sticks to itself and to other things, which it makes it useful but also annoying at times. Here, sellotape. Look at that, sellotape as well. We get a charge from sellotape, and that's part of the reason why sellotape often doubles up on itself and starts sticking to itself. Other things in the house that create a lot of static, polyester t-shirts and fleeces, sports tops, that sort of material create a lot of static charge. And look at that, a lot of static. And that's why at night, maybe when you're pulling one of these over your head, rubbing off your hair and your skin, you'll see little flashes in the dark, and you might hear a crackling noise. And that's mini thunder and lightning. And that's what happens in the atmosphere when huge static charges build up and then want to crash down to earth and tear through the air and light up the air as they doing that and make that terrific noise. If you want to avoid, if you're prone to static shocks and you don't like it, try and avoid materials like that. Try and use maybe cotton, wear cotton materials mainly, and see that cotton doesn't create much of a static charge. So we hope you've learnt a lot today with me, and you can do some of these experiments yourselves later on, or maybe you've been doing some alongside me. And it's all about learning, exploring the way the world works, and hopefully when all the restrictions are over, we'll see you in Waterford Institute of Technology for some of our fabulous Calmast workshops and activities. Until then, stay safe and enjoy your science.